Hello guys and welcome to a new Wargame video today by me Vulcan. Today I'm playing a 3v3 on Ostersund and I am playing with Rangru and American Hunter in this particular replay, and we're playing against USSR V2, Zoltan and Susika. Now I know Rangru and American personally, so I was talking to them throughout this on TeamSpeak, and so we had voice communications, and that's why you'll see that our own movements on the map were much more coordinated than probably the other team. Now, this had been my first Conquest game in quite a while. I don't play Conquest very often. We were playing on a 500 point win condition. So basically we had to build up to that amount, and the way in which we did that was obviously we captured more sectors than the enemy, and over time you accumulate the points depending on how many more you have than the enemy, and that counts up to your victory. It's a game mode I don't like purely because it's hard to keep track of your own forces and how much you're actually losing in terms of value, because there isn't any messages that pop up when you lose a unit. For example, like it doesn't show you how much you've lost or how much you've killed. So you really have to keep a good eye on the units you're using and whether you're killing or losing them. So I think this is just generally harder for people who are new to the game or people who don't play it very often, because like I say, you have to know your units inside out, and I generally do. It's just obviously I don't play as much anymore, and I'm not as good as I probably should be in order to provide you guys with the insight into these games. However, I do like analysing my own replays, and this was one that really stood out for me, mainly because of what Rangru and American pulled off on the left side. They play the game probably more than I do, and they did very, very well together. Now, let's go over our strategy. Here's Kilo. I was left here to hold this for myself. I would also going to defend Juliet and stop them rushing down from India. Meanwhile, Rangru and American were going to sweep round the left and try and basically hit them in their spawn sector Alpha. So basically this means that American was going to like spearhead up to Bravo, and then Rangru would support him once he's sorted out his defensive line. Now for my own defensive line, what I decided to do was rely on HGM Milan squads and Javelin squads for anti-air. Then I started with 2 Challenger 1s, 2 tracked rapiers, a tracked rapier FSA, a Scorpion light tank which I was going to use as recon, but I don't think I ended up using it as recon in the end. I've got Alvis Stalwarts. These are to complement each of these building sectors here. A Yak comes in at the start of the game and does napalm this hill here, which does actually catch me out. I was very busy trying to micromanage my HGM Milan squads into the buildings, and I did actually forget, although I did see it, the napalm on this road, and you'll see my Chieftain 2s just drive straight into it, which wasn't the best move by us. But we get an early lead by us capturing more sectors than the enemy soon. Got American over here bringing in some Vigans to deal a significant amount of damage to the enemy on the left side, and you can see already a lot of their forces have been taken out by American Spearhead. So this is really where preparation comes into this game. American knew exactly what he was doing here, and it looks like he's using a combination of Swedish units to pull this off. Now in the meantime, my HGM Milan squads are being taken out by some Mi-17s with rocket pods, and over here, like I was saying earlier, my Chieftain 2s just drove straight through the flames and did get caught out on the slopes. Unfortunately, my 2 Centurion AVREs, which are basically like short-range artillery with very high HE power, they unfortunately got taken down. But I get my tracked rapiers come up and try and get some sneaky shots onto some of these Mi-17s to soften the blow a little. Because each of those Centurions there are worth about 40 points, and I lost 2 of them. My Chieftain Mark II's managed to get out alive. So, with American being so successful on the left, it forces Zoltan to retreat. And these STRFs, very powerful 40mm autocannons, managed to deal with the Sturm to stop themselves getting killed, and also help out a lot taking down these Factoria squads. So you can see here the sort of defense that I built up. Now I'm using a British armored deck, so I've got a lot of tanks, which includes Challenger 1s, Chieftain Mark 2s, Chieftain Mark 10s, and the Centurions as well. I've got these Alvis stalwarts. I've got one for each complex, like I said. It creates a nice supply network around the whole area. And I've got 2 Chinooks coming in to help repair and refuel my tanks and so on. So these Chieftain Mark 2s getting repaired and refueled, and same with my Challenger 1s. Now Rangru decides to test the waters with AA by bringing in some wild weasels. He figures out that they have Tunguskas in the area, except they have their radar machine guns turned off, so he couldn't target them with the wild weasel's anti-radar. So basically, my role throughout this game was just to defend this front. And by doing so, it allowed us to get a nice advantage over the enemy early on because they didn't capture Hotel quickly enough. So at this point we're +2 ahead. If they had captured Hotel, we would be equal in points. However, we pushed them out of Bravo as well, and we're about to capture that off them. So with that, we were +1, and it was their move. Rangru's done a nice job over here of securing this village area. So he's got his light riflemen, his lad Red Eyes, and his Sheridans to basically secure this part from any attacks from Echo or Alpha. I've got my small amount of men keeping tabs on the valley from Golf and Echo. And then I obviously have my stronghold here with my Challenger 2s and my Chieftain Mark 2s. So we didn't really need to do anything too aggressive, but me being me and not being a camper at all, I do like to attack, even if it's necessarily not the correct thing to do. And I began to start building up a force that I felt would be decent enough to push up into India blind. Now, I was very much mistaken, and you'll see exactly what happens when I try to do so. Now, meanwhile on the left, American and Rangru are also building up a large amount of men. Got some M113A1s here, troop transports that have dropped off their men and are being moved up to provide some fire support. Got some Americans sending up some Fullscreen to basically scout over the other side of this hill and see what he can see. Now this is a nice tactic for recon, getting a couple of units of small recon squads and pushing them around the map, because these guys run very fast. You can see that they run at 27 kilometers per hour. That's an infantry squad running at 27 kilometers per hour. And they're very maneuverable, especially in forests. So you get them here and then you can use them to scout out where the enemy are. And you can see that's exactly what he does. American spots the BMP-1K that's actually holding Alpha. They're deciding to bring up more STRFs, these 9040s with the 40mm cannons. Lovely APCs that they are. We got some strikers coming up here from Rangru to provide some ATGM support. We've also got some Kustjäger taking a stroll across the top of the mountains on this side. And over here, see, I'm finally deciding to move up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Challenger 1s. We've got those 4 Chieftain Mark 2s. We've got tracked rapiers and these Pinsgauers, which were supposed to go up ahead, but I moved too soon. And the Pinsgauers, unfortunately, didn't get there to distract the units that I felt were going to kill me. So basically the idea with the Pinsgauers was that they were more targets for the enemy to see. I get some help from Rangru with an aardvark who brings in some cluster bombs to try and take out the T-80U. Fortunately we do take that down, but I've taken a lot of losses thus far, losing 2 Challenger 1s on the left already, and my Chieftain Mark 2s are starting to be taken out by the HGNs of this BMP-3. Furthermore, Yak comes in, does get shot down, but provides enough fire to break up my Challengers and cause one to be panicked. This very much reduces the efficiency of its cannon. Got some VDV in the meanwhile on the left, and this is probably the best use of VDV I've seen in a while. They basically have normal RPGs, fire and forget RPGs, but they are extremely long range, 875 meter range, which is about 300 meters longer than an average RPG. So if you look at the most Schalke, they have 525 meter range. The VDV have 875 meter range because the RPGs they use have optics. And my Challenger 1 does suffer because of this. Unfortunately, he turned his side armor there and took a massive hit from these VDV. With more airplanes coming in, they deal even more damage to my tanks. And it's basically time for me to get out of there. One of my tracked rapiers is out of ammo on the right, and my last Chieftain Mark II does get destroyed. So now it's just basically me trying to get this Challenger away from these VDV who are gradually moving towards my tank. The VDV have 18 km/h speed, so they are going to keep up, and unfortunately I don't manage to get the Challenger out of there before it gets blown up with the last couple of rockets. Over on the left, American's doing a very good job here. But what American does also spot, even though he is attacking on the left, is this clump of Mi-17s, the guys who dropped off all the VDV at the beginning of the game, sweeping round the back of us. I bring in some tornadoes, Rangru brings in some wild weasels, and we try and take down these Mi-17s as quickly as possible before they can kill our CB in the sector. Now, needless to say, American wasn't very happy about this, and I kind of felt responsible because I didn't have any recon around the back of the area, and we would have spotted them a lot quickly had that been the case. But we do manage to take down the rest of these Mi-17s before they manage to kill my Sultan, which is very vulnerable at the back of this area. Now, fortunately, because I have the Lad Javelins here and the tracked rapiers in range, they do manage to kill the rest of these Mi-17s before they deal the finishing blow. I also, just in case, moved the Sultan away, which is already on half health. So there we go. I was very lucky that this helicopter didn't land on top of my CV and destroy it. So I managed to hold on to Juliet, and that equals out the points. But unfortunately, we've lost our CV and Kilo. I've already brought in another Sultan to fix that problem, and that would once again put us at +1 overall. Now at this point in the game we're 176 points to 16, so we are winning significantly, and with American Hunter and Rangru preparing to attack into Alpha, should win the game soon enough. But with my Challenger 1s and the Chieftains being destroyed, I've unfortunately left myself very, very vulnerable. You see this T-80U coming across the top here. I brought over my Chinooks to replace the Alvis Stalwart so that they can resupply the HGM Milans. Now admittedly the placement of this Chinook isn't exactly ideal, I probably could have done with putting him in behind the building here, so that he was out of line of sight of any enemies that could come and attack. But I've got a Falcon here to provide some AAA support. And this Chinook is also a bit out in the open, but I kind of didn't necessarily, I kind of rushed to put them down, so I didn't look at where I wanted to put them. And that's why they didn't end up being in the best of positions. But I wasn't too concerned about that. I was more concerned about regrouping after I'd already lost more of my track, like another track rapier there, as well as all those tanks at the beginning. So I kind of saw this coming a mile off. I've got a Gazelle AH-1 all the way back here providing recon for anything that would come down the hill. And so this entire area here would be reconned. And I would be able to see what's coming. It's just, I kind of expected it because of the amount that the enemy saw that they'd killed. Fortunately, my Pinsgowers are absorbing some of the T-64 BB's HGM fire. See, they're constantly peppering me with rocket barrages, which is unfortunately stunning my Chinooks. Now it's time for American and Rang to start pushing round into Alpha. So Rangru's got some Sheridans to help out with American's STRVs. And they've managed to already take out this command vehicle with the help of some aircraft, and also over here these artillery suffered a similar fate. But now it's my turn to defend. With our team attacking on the left, they go all in on the right. They have 4 squads of VDV approaching from this forest here. Now I have 0 infantry at this point, and I really felt that's one thing that my deck really lacks, and I'll probably have to change, is that the fact that my units have, or my deck has so many HGM land and javelins and so on, specialized infantry, that there isn't actually any normal infantry on the deck. I brought in some Harriers here to attempt to bomb some of these units coming in, but I do dramatically miss the VDV. And with this smoke from the flames covering their advance, my challengers can't get into a position in order to fire upon them. Now my challengers, I've hid behind these buildings to give them a chance against any encroaching tanks and HGMs. But what it did do was allow the infantry of the enemy to just run across the open straight towards these buildings. Not exactly what I had planned. Thankfully, Rangru brings over some Cobras, which are extremely good at cleaning up infantry out in the open, and that's exactly what he does. Also, American Hunters Vigans come in and try and help me take out a T-80U. That does do a little bit of damage to that. Now, on the left here, I did lose another challenger to the VDV who had advanced towards this building. Unfortunately, a challenger here, which was facing in this direction, took an HGM in the side and a shot from in the side from a T-80U, which did manage to destroy that. American Hunter has brought in his HGM choppers, which use the Ito system to try and take out this T-80U, while I try my best to defend with, well, I've only got 1 challenger left now. So my HGMs didn't end up doing much, purely because they didn't have the chance to fire on anything before they got killed by the enemy's infantry. I pretty much got steamrolled at this point, and I must say it's pretty much down to my allies, American and Rangru, that we actually won this game. I did a reasonably good job of holding them back enough that they didn't kill the CV, but I felt as though I didn't have as a lasting impact as, for instance, American on the left here, who's done an incredible job sweeping around to Alpha and even capturing it off the enemy. All these Kustjäger doing a fine work of taking out these P2R Conquer squads in this sector over here. And one thing that was quite clever, I found, was that as soon as we managed to take out the rest of the units in these buildings, we captured back these 3 Alvis stalwarts, which told us exactly how many units of the enemy there were left in the area. And you'll see that there was none, pretty much, after this Motorstrelki unit fell. And we'd successfully managed to hold off the enemy with my tanks in this area. So, as you can see, it pretty much gave us a green light as to whether or not there were any enemies left in the sector, which there were not. The enemies seemed to hold back a bit. You can see there's still T-64 BBs up here, which if he pushed forwards with his infantry, probably could have taken out my Sultan had they spotted it. But that's pretty much it for them. We're +3 now in points, and the ticker's going up very, very quickly. American Hunter's using his trucks in order to scout the enemy up this road. And Rangru's tanks are taking advantage of that to blow up vehicles that he can see. So I just had to hold out against this push from India, and we were fine. At this point, we'd pretty much won with the success on the left and their failure on the right. So with this line defended, I moved up my tanks so that I didn't give away the position of my Sultan, and my Centurion AVRE just tries to get a kill onto the Motorstrelki as they run towards the buildings trying to get into position again. And like I said before, I didn't have any infantry that I would have liked to use in these buildings to defend off against other infantry. I only had my specialized units, so you can see I hadn't brought them back in, and we're just bringing in more and more tanks that would be able to kill those infantry very easily if they were to come face to face. So we now have 90% of the conquest points we need. And we're just basically taking out any last push that the enemy put towards us. See, it's almost too late now for the enemy to use their T-64 BBs to try and attack. We're on 471 out of 500 points. I've got all the recon I need with this Gazelle AH-1 to see what there is against me. We pretty much knew at this point that we'd won. So, with me defending on the right and them successfully pushing around on their left, that's really what won us this game. And I had to have to thank Rangru and American for providing this victory for me, because I don't think I did that well. Because obviously you can see here, I did rely a lot on the help of my allies. Especially their air support, which was very, very effective throughout the game. So, at the end of that game, I had 1,586 kills to 1,385 deaths. Not the best kill death ever, but at least it's positive. Rangru did very well with 1,713 kills to 1,020 losses. American, even more kills, but a little bit more deaths as well. So a very good game there. 20 minutes and 23 seconds it took. And, well, I think we had, it's fair to say, a decent enemy. Obviously they weren't going to be as coordinated as us because we were on TeamSpeak. So it was likely that they were going to lose just from that. However, I do believe that they put up a very, very good fight. And although Zoltan did lose a lot of men, it was probably just because American outplayed him, not because he's bad. So there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I'm really glad to put out more Wargame content. I really love commenting on decent replays. So I have to play with other people more often and see about finding some. So yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.